to step down. I wonder if it really is just like the script or if he's realizing.
So about Rachel Zegler on the first day of casting. And I just kept looking and looking and looking. She's high as Rachel reached that first day.
And it was just like, holy crap. There were like the reverberations were felt far and wide around the world.
Steven Spielberg allegedly warned Disney from the start, telling executives point blank, guys, she's trouble. Not in a half-joking Hollywood gossip kind of way, but serious, concerned, direct. Spielberg had already seen the behind-the-scenes disaster that was Rachel Zegler's behavior during West Side Story.
Disney. Bob Iger stepping down as CEO. This was something that, we all knew was coming at some point. But to do it just so abruptly on the day where Disney stock has just been hammered, I think they had to shut down Disneyland Shanghai as well. Maybe in it anymore. Like, he's taken things about as far as he can.
He watched it unfold with his own eyes. The diva attitude, the entitlement, the way she reportedly rubbed co-stars and crew the wrong way. And he didn't keep it to himself. According to insiders, Spielberg tried to wave the red flag early, warning Disney that casting Zegler as their live-action Snow White was a ticking time bomb. But Disney didn't listen. They brushed it off, too eager to bank on Zegler's rising. Star status, too convinced that a young, outspoken lead would attract a modern audience. Instead, what they got was a PR nightmare, a fractured fan base, and one of the most embarrassing box office flops in the studio's recent history.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing, before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
This wasn't just a disappointing debut. This was a total meltdown. The movie, which ballooned to a reported $270 million budget, barely scraped in $194.6 million globally. Not even close to breaking even. And now, as the dust settles, people are asking the obvious question.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs. But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, we're a disability group. You just erase that whole.
Why didn't Disney listen to Spielberg? Here's the thing. Spielberg didn't just suspect there'd be problems with Zegler, he experienced them firsthand. Working closely with her on West Side Story, Spielberg reportedly saw a side of Rachel that the public wasn't fully aware of yet. According to multiple sources, the set was riddled with tension. Crew members described her as difficult.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infitata is the only global solution.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
Unpredictable, and at times, downright rude. There were whispers about her dismissing direction, pushing back on creative decisions, and clashing with colleagues. Spielberg allegedly tried to manage the situation, but the warning signs were impossible to ignore. So, when he caught wind of Disney's plan to hand Zegler the lead in Snow White,
and you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings?
Yeah,
they won't even say
magical
and the 7 dwarves?
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
he spoke up. Sources claim Spielberg flagged her behavior directly to Disney leadership, stressing that this wasn't just about acting ability, it was about the baggage that would follow her onto the set. The drama, the attitude, the bad headlines just waiting to happen. But Disney, riding high on Zegler's early buzz and social media presence,
hardcore. They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
Oh my God. She came out and she said, I apologize. I went too far. But it wasn't.
Bet against Spielberg's instincts, and they lost. Big time. If you thought the drama stopped at Spielberg's, warnings. Oh no, this was just the warm-up. Even before the first trailer dropped, Zegler made it clear she wasn't here to honor the original Snow White.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Last week was a very big week, objectively a huge week. We had quite a few announcements. It's the first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me, I'm Snow White, which is so funny.
In interviews, she slammed the 1937 classic, calling the prince a stalker and scoffing at the love story that defined the film. She didn't hold back, saying the old tale was weird and creepy, and that her version would be all about female empowerment. Now, whether you agree with that take or not, here's the problem. Disney fans didn't sign up for a lecture. They signed up for nostalgia, they wanted magic, romance, and the fairy tale they grew up with.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension: racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary, that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely atrocious.
Instead, they got Zegler rolling her eyes at the very foundation of the story. The backlash was instant. Fans flooded comment sections, calling for boycotts. YouTube and TikTok lit up with reaction videos tearing into Zegler's statements. Disney had just alienated the core audience they needed most.
Doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
The movie has a major identity crisis.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
And Zegler was right at the center of it. By the time Snow White actually hit theaters, the damage was done. Opening weekend numbers were brutal. The movie pulled in just $43 million domestically and $87 million worldwide.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of
pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
Nowhere near the blockbuster. Expectations Disney was banking on. To make back that bloated $270 million budget, they would have needed at least $500 million. Instead, the film limped through its release cycle, overshadowed by controversy and mocked relentlessly online. Critics dragged the film for its joyless tone and awkward storytelling. Audiences called it preachy and out of touch. But the Tabwigyu.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
Broke out with this news, and I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward.
Harshest criticism? Zegler herself. Her performance was called wooden, disconnected, and emotionally flat. Instead of winning over a new generation of fans, Zegler managed to drive away both the old and the new. This wasn't just a bad movie, it was a reputation killer. When the smoke cleared and the numbers came in,
Disney deleted Someday My Prince Will Come and made a modernized feminist alternative.
There was no sugarcoating the disaster. Snow White wasn't just a flop, it was an absolute faceplant for Disney. And while there were plenty of people involved in this mess, all eyes seemed to land on one person: Rachel Zegler. It didn't take long for the blame game to start, but here's the kicker. It wasn't just the internet trolls or a few angry fans in the comments section. No, the call was coming from inside the house. Jonah Platt, the son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, came out guns blazing. And let's be real, that alone says a lot. Because when the producer's own family starts publicly trashing your lead actress, you know things have gone seriously sideways. Jonah didn't hold back. He straight up accused Zegler's political rants, her non-stop controversial interviews, and her holier-than-thou attitude of playing a direct role in tanking the movie. And honestly, can you blame him? By the time the film was ready to hit theaters, Zegler had already managed to alienate half the fanbase before a single ticket was sold. She wasn't promoting the film, she was promoting the backlash. Behind the scenes, Disney execs were reportedly furious. Sources say internal meetings turned into finger-pointing sessions, with leadership asking the obvious question, how the hell did we not see this coming? Spielberg's warning was ringing in their ears louder than ever, but at that point, it was too late. The damage was done. The box office numbers were dead on arrival, and Zegler's name was plastered across every headline for all the wrong reasons. But it didn't stop at Snow White. The fallout spilled over into other projects Disney had in the pipeline. Quietly, but very deliberately, the studio started hitting the brakes on several live-action remakes and reboots that had been in development. Projects that were supposed to follow Snow White as the next big tentpoles put on ice, some indefinitely. The fear was real. The message was clear. Nobody wanted another Zegler situation. One insider described the vibe in the boardroom as panic mode. Execs were scrambling to figure out how to recover, how to spin the narrative, how to claw their way back to audience trust. And the first step in their damage control playbook? Distance themselves as far as possible from Rachel Zegler. Calls that might have gone out to Zegler's team for future auditions, quietly canceled, rumored casting discussions for other franchises, seats suddenly dead in the water. Hollywood studios are risk-averse by nature, and after this kind of PR disaster, Rachel's name had officially landed on the too toxic to touch list. Because here's the thing about Hollywood, you can survive a flop. Plenty of stars have bombed at the box office and lived to tell the tale. But when you become the reason the project failed, when your own words, your own choices, your own attitude become the smoking gun, that's a stain that doesn't wash off easily. And Zegler didn't just alienate fans, she alienated the very machine that makes or breaks careers in this business. The executives, the investors, the PR handlers who now had to work overtime cleaning up the mess. And as for Disney, they learned their lesson the hard way. The studio, known for its tight control over public image and branding, found itself dragged through weeks of bad press, boycotts, and fan outrage. All because they bet on the wrong horse and ignored the red flags that Spielberg had waved right in their faces. At this point, Rachel Zegler wasn't just an actress with a bad headline. She was the headline, the cautionary tale, the textbook. Example of how one casting decision can unravel an entire franchise. And the message couldn't be clearer. In the world of billion-dollar movie studios, controversy isn't charming, it's costly. You'd think after a box office disaster of this magnitude, a full-on scorched earth kind of flop, Rachel Zegler might hit pause, maybe do some real soul-searching, maybe step back, own up to some of the damage, take a little accountability, and focus on rebuilding. I mean, most actors in her shoes would at least pretend to reflect, right? But not Rachel. Instead, she doubled down, barely giving the dust time. To settle from the Snow White catastrophe, Zegler announced her next big move, headlining Evita in London's prestigious West End. It was marketed as her big comeback, her chance to prove the haters wrong, the rebrand, the reinvention, the ultimate I'm still a star moment. But here's the problem, no one was buying it. Reports started leaking almost immediately after previews began. Ticket sales, weak. Audience turnout, depressingly low. Theaters weren't packed with eager fans ready to watch her rise from the ashes. Instead, there were empty seats and a whole lot of side eyes. Some theater insiders even claimed that management started quietly discounting tickets just to fill rows for press nights. Online, the chatter was brutal. Fans and even casual observers were quick to slap her with a new nickname, the Snow White Flop Girl. Ouch. Once the internet gives you a title like that, good luck shaking it off. But let's be real. This wasn't just about one bad movie or one awkward performance. This was about baggage. Zegler had built up a reputation, not as the talented ingenue she was once marketed as, but as a walking PR crisis. Between the political firestorms, the non-stop social media backlash, and the fan base she managed to alienate on both sides of the aisle, Hollywood started seeing her as less of a rising star and more of a guaranteed headache. Sources say studios were quietly backing away, scrapping early conversations about potential leads or cameo roles for Zegler. One industry insider even described her as radioactive, the kind of name that makes investors nervous and marketing teams sweat. Even the parts that should have been easy wins, guest spots, commercial campaigns, voice acting gigs, were reportedly slipping through her fingers. Because here's the thing, nobody wants their princess tied to scandal. Nobody wants to gamble on an actress who's trending for the wrong reasons. And the saddest part? It didn't have to be this way. Zegler had the golden ticket. She had Spielberg backing her. She had Disney handing her a lead role in one of their crown jewel remakes. All she had to do was show up, be gracious, play the game like every other A-lister climbing the ladder. But instead, she chose chaos. She chose call-outs. She chose to antagonize the very audience that could have secured her place at the top. Now, she's the cautionary tale, the one people bring up in meetings when they're warning against casting someone with too much heat. Sure, Hollywood has a short memory, but not that short. When your name becomes synonymous with the words flop and controversy, it sticks. And if Zegler thought the West End would be her redemption tour, well, let's just say the standing ovation never came. And honestly, after all the damage, after all the drama, can you really blame the industry for pulling back? Because in the end, reputation is everything. And right now, Rachel Zegler's. It's in shambles. At the end of the day, Spielberg was right. He saw the storm coming long before it hit, and he tried to stop it. But Disney, blinded by hype and hungry for a headline, ignored the warning signs. They gambled on Rachel Zegler despite the drama, despite the arrogance, despite the growing list of red flags. And they paid the price. What should have been a magical revival of one of Disney's most beloved stories turned into a $270 million cautionary tale. A hard lesson in what happens when you cast the wrong person for the wrong reasons. Sometimes the biggest disasters aren't surprises at all. They're warnings ignored.